event of XCamp Educational Forum. We will have a panel discussion with Harker students on how to adjust to a new life in middle school. Let's welcome Charlie to introduce the background on XCamp.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to XCamp 9th Educational Forum event. Also thank all of the Harker students here to present. Quick introduction about XCamp. This is the coding school. So we help middle school, high school, or even primary school students to learn coding. It was founded by me and my friend Yuan 3.5 years ago. So here we believe we can help each student reach their own potential. This is important because everyone is different. Everyone have their own pace, their strengths. So we try to help each of you. The second one we want to do is we believe coding can change the world. We can change the world with coding together. Lastly, we want to in XCamp also the study throughout us. We can make the world a better place at XCamp. Today, we are together to help students to, especially the 5th graders from primary school to middle school, how to adjust the new life. I will go back to Zoe. Let's see how we can do.
Thanks, Charlie. Hello, everyone. My name is Zoe, and I'm in elementary school in Harker. I am an animal lover who enjoys dancing, singing, acting, and spending time with my friends. As many of us know, I'm on my track to middle school. I'm always wondering what would make the difference when moving from elementary to middle school and how we can prepare ourselves for the change. Today's event will include 4 parts. First, a theme-based mini presentation from each panelist. Each topic will be well selected from our panelists and important to adjustment to middle school life. This will take about 15 minutes. Next, we will have a panel discussion for questions we collected, which will take about 20 minutes. Third, everyone today is studying in XCamp. We would also love to share our learning experience here, which would take about 10 minutes. And lastly, we would have a Q&A session for any other questions from our audience, which would also take about 10 minutes. Okay, next, let's invite Ellie. She is a 6th grade student, loves synchronized swimming, coding, baking, reading, piano, and her teddy puppy. She commits 10 to 15 hours each week for her swimming team, while well balanced for her other activities. How is she able to do so? Let's hear Ellie to talk about her time management skills, which is very critical to middle school life.
Hi everyone, my name is Ellie and I'm a 6th grade student at Harker. I joined Harker last year in 5th grade, and the biggest change from the lower school to the middle school for me was the way I had to manage my time. Finding the balance between schoolwork, other activities, and sleep is quite challenging in middle school. You don't want to be staying up until 11 p.m. doing your homework while half asleep. In order to keep a good balance of everything, you should time manage. Typically, English, math, science, history, and language teachers assign homework each day, but some teachers are a bit nicer and don't. My goal each day is to finish my homework by the end of the school day because I have to train with my synchronized swimming team after school. So to time manage, I make a spreadsheet to keep track of my work for the day. I'll be sharing this spreadsheet in the next slide. In the morning, before school starts, I look at Schoology, which is the place where teachers post all assignments, and I add the assignments into my spreadsheet. Then throughout the day, I can see what assignments I need to finish and try to make time for it. For example, when I have a small chunk of time, I can work on a small portion of my homework, such as revising a paragraph of my English essay or reviewing some of my Spanish vocabulary. That way, I don't feel overwhelmed by the giant assignment, and I have more leisure time. I've kept this system throughout my first year of middle school, and so far it's been working out pretty well. I currently do synchronized swimming, which is a team sport that involves a lot of dedication, training 2 to 3 hours each day, 5 days a week. It may seem challenging to do this while also balancing schoolwork, but with good time management, it's actually pretty easy. Also, I have more free time to spend doing things I enjoy, such as baking or playing with my puppy. And I don't feel pressured by the schoolwork. Next slide, please. So here's an example of the spreadsheet I use to keep track of assignments. I decided to come up with this spreadsheet because I tend to become very stressed when I don't have things organized. So this is my way of keeping everything organized. I have the classes in one column and the assignments in another, and I also keep a list of things I have to do at home, such as coding homework and piano. I hope this was helpful for you and will help you manage life in middle school. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. Next, we have Serena from 7th grade, who is willing to share with us about homework during life in middle school. She loves reading, coding, fencing, basketball, Pokemon, and Doge games. Her crazy day in Harker Middle School was having homework from all her subjects, basketball practice, and fencing practice, all in one afternoon. Let's welcome Serena.
Thanks, Zoe. Hi, everyone. My name is Serena. I'm in 7th grade. As Zoe said, I love reading, coding, fencing, basketball, Pokemon, and Doge memes. So when I was 2, I moved back to China, and there was no homework at my previous school. So homework was a really big change for me. I have fencing 2 to 3 hours a week, 4 times a week, and piano, basketball, and debate and coding. So I don't really have a lot of time for homework. So usually in middle school, you would get 5 subjects worth of homework. You would mostly get homework from English, math, history, science, and language. So in 6th grade, you would have 20 minutes. It's supposed to be 20 minutes for each subject's homework. And in 7th grade, you would have 25 minutes. And in 8th grade, it would be 30 per subject. So in order to keep track of these assignments, you could use Schoology, where you can see the calendar, which can show you the events and the assignments due on that day. You can also see your coming up and overdue assignments. You can also see the announcements from Ms. Burrows and your class teachers. And you can also access your your class materials and your grades from Schoology. So it's because homework, there's a lot of homework in middle school, you definitely want to prioritize your homework sometimes. So you can prioritize it by your class. So for in-person school, you might have like math in the morning and English in the afternoon. So you can, if you don't have time, then you can always do math first and then you can work on English during lunch. You also can prioritize it based on the time it takes to do each subject, and you can also prioritize it based on how much brain power you think that you need. So if you think that math, you would need a lot of brain power, then you could probably do that first. So if you know that you're going to be very busy on one day and you can't, then you can definitely work on it beforehand, as your teacher would post the homework for the whole week on Monday. So if you really don't have time to do homework ahead of time, just email your teacher and they will be pretty nice about it. So they probably give you an extension. If you're missing an assignment, then you can just email your teacher and then finish and submit it as soon as you can, and then you will still get partial credit. So it's not productive to stay up at night really late doing homework. So just go to sleep and then you can always work on homework tomorrow. And because middle school has so much homework, you should definitely not procrastinate, because that would make your life really miserable. That's all. I hope that helps you in your middle school life. And back to you, Zoe.
Thank you, Serena. Now we have our next panelist, Isabel, who is from 8th grade and enjoys basketball and cooking. During her free time, she loves watching YouTube. One of her favorite YouTube channels is Jimmy Kimmel. Today, she will talk about the change in workload. Unfortunately, she's not able to join the meeting today, but we have collected a video of her presentation.
Hi, I'm Isabella, and my biggest change in middle school was a change in workload. Overall, at middle school, all the tests, homeworks, and projects all increase. For tests, they get harder, so you'll have to study for longer. For homework, I think that the increase was pretty expected, so it wasn't that bad. But what really surprised me was how the projects increased so much. And also the difficulty of the projects. You have to be a lot more thorough in how you complete all of them. And some tips that I have for helping complete this as time management. You have to take advantage of any time you get. So I'll usually work during L1 to do my homework, and that really helps me get the homework done. And also, you'll need to be able to balance your life between things you like to do, extracurricular activities, and homework. And also, I recommend doing this with friends. It really helps pass the time a lot quicker, and especially when you're studying for tests, this helps a lot. It doesn't matter if you're not doing the same subject or doing the same homework. This just helps because it helps you stay on track and focused. And finally, you have to stay organized. When you're trying to remember what homework that you have to do, using Schoology doesn't always work because Schoology, like some teachers will post a homework on the due date, like tomorrow, while some teachers will post homework on the day it's assigned. So that gets kind of confusing. And also when you're going to on-campus school, you do not want to lose your homework assignments or projects because that's a horrible feeling and no one wants that to happen. So just make sure to stay organized.
Thanks, Isabella, for the wonderful tips. Next, we have Aiden, who is in 8th grade. He plays water polo on our Harker team. In his free time, he enjoys reading and playing video games with his friends. His favorite subject is math, and today he would like to share about clubs and activities in middle school. Let's welcome Aiden.
Hello, my name is Aiden. Like Isabel told you guys, I played water polo. I actually played for the Harker team, and I went to a club which had multiple practices every week, and I had a lot of trouble balancing it out with my schoolwork. So about clubs and activities, you should probably prioritize which ones are more important. You are given a few weeks of school to just fit in before clubs happen. And if you're struggling with school, with all the homework you have, then I recommend don't get in clubs because that's just gonna take up more of your time.
In 1,000 feet, turn right.
Also, scheduling is very important because if you have a lot of clubs and activities in one day, you need to schedule it and make sure you get to everything on time. Otherwise, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. Ultimately, time management is a big issue when you have lots of things to do, such as sports, clubs, and activities. And basically, also, with my experiences, when I started in 6th grade, my old school did not have a lot of homework. So I was not used to having a lot of homework. So at first, I had a lot of clubs because I thought they were very fun. But then later on in the year, I had lots of trouble keeping up with all the homework I was given. And I had lots of challenges staying in my classes and not failing. Ultimately, I pulled through. And yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you, Aiden. Last but not least, we have Alex, who survived 3 years in middle school and now is taking another step forward to 9th grade. He plays soccer and piano while spending time to research psychology. One of his favorite days at Harker was when he watched a school play with his friends on a relaxing Friday afternoon. Welcome Alex School to share his experience in middle school.
Hi, so I'm Alex, and my background may not be the same as all of you guys here. I actually came to Harker from a public school, and there were a lot of things that were different from me in Harker. So the first thing was I was new to the period schedule. You guys probably know what that is because I think you guys are in the elementary school, but that was just a new change for me. Some larger changes were that the Harker environment is very different. It's very academically competitive, and even though you guys might have been in the Harker environment for a while already, it can still be very stressful and I guess taxing on your brain. So I would recommend that you focus on yourself and less about others. And if you're satisfied with what you're doing, don't let other people make you feel otherwise. At Harker Middle School, there's also a lot more frequent tests. So studying for these tests is not really that hard. Just maybe 30 minutes before the test, I would say would be enough for most of them. For larger tests, maybe you might want to continually study throughout the week, but it's just a little extra that you have to do. Some other new things were after school activities. There's a lot more things that you can do, such as clubs and sports, which have already been mentioned before. Um, I would recommend doing a sport because it's kind of like a way to also hang out with your friends, but do something at the same time. Clubs is also very similar to that. So you can choose clubs that are just fun, and there's also clubs that can be very rewarding from learning a lot of things. So I guess the last thing I would say would be just to enjoy your middle school and I guess have fun with your friends.
Thanks, Alex. Next, we'll move over to the second phase, panel discussion. Each panelist will share their tip and experience from each of the categories, including surviving middle school, choices in middle school, and fun in middle school. Let's start with Ellie, who would like to share about her tips for surviving middle school.
Okay, thank you, Zoe. I think tests are probably one of the most important parts of surviving middle school. So basically, I think you should study your. Oh, okay. I think one important tip would be to study your materials instead of cramming all the information into your brain the night before a test. And also, when the teacher is teaching, you could take some notes to help you study.
Thanks, Ellie. Now we can let Alex share his thoughts about surviving middle school.
In middle school, I feel like if you can find a good friend group, then they'll be very helpful to you. You can ask them for things you might have missed in class. You can just hang out with them to have fun, and it just makes middle school life a lot better. So one recommendation would be to find a friend group that you're very comfortable with and just hang out with them often.
Thanks. Now, Serena, you could go on to share your tips and experiences.
Sure. So Schoology is very important in middle school. So teachers post all their materials there. So you can access everything basically that you would ever need in middle school would be in the Schoology. You can see your grades, your calendar, different events, different announcements from all your teachers, and yeah, it's very good. It's basically all you really need to succeed in middle school, but you also need to pay attention in class because the teacher's not going to post everything in there.
Thanks, Serena. Do you know how often the teacher will post the assignment?
Most teachers would post an agenda. They update it every week, I think. Some teachers update it every day based on most teachers update their agenda every day so you can see what you're going to do in class. So you can probably prepare for that. So that's useful. You can also access the agenda from Schoology.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Serena. Now, Aiden, do you have any final thoughts?
I think I agree with Alex. Finding a friend group is probably one of the most important things because in most, if not all of the field trips, you're going to be staying with multiple people in a room or like a cabin, and you probably would need friend groups for those because otherwise, you're going to be stuck with people that you might not know, and that's going to be really awkward for you.
Okay, Aiden, I have another question for you. How do you find friends? Like, how do you make friends if you're new?
Well, if you're outgoing and talk a lot, then you should just, keep doing that and you'll find other people to talk to really easily. If you're more shy, you can maybe see who else is shy and doesn't really like talking to other people and maybe you can try to hang out with them. Just try to find people that might, suit you.
All right, thank you. Now we move on to the second topic, which is choices in middle school. Let's start with Ellie.
Oh, okay. So one of the most important choices in middle school is your language choice. So you can choose from Latin, Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, and French. This year I chose Spanish and the teacher is very good. The homework load isn't too bad. It's about 15 minutes or so, maybe even less sometimes. And tests are every week or every 2 weeks. And I think if you participate in class, you should be all right for the test. You can just study some of your vocabulary and you should be all right.
Thank you so much. And what is the most challenging part you think for Spanish?
I think the most challenging part is trying to get the vocabulary into your brain, because sometimes you can mix some words up because they have similar like letters or they are pronounced similarly. So yeah.
All right, thank you. Now, Alex, do you have any tips for electives?
In middle school, there are some more like demanding electives and there's some more relaxing electives. So one elective would be speech and debate. And I'd say that one is more demanding. And yeah, you have to spend quite a bit of time prepping for tournaments. For my last 2 years of middle school, I took ceramics. So that's just like an art class. And I found that it was very relaxing and I had a lot of fun in that class. So I would recommend that class. Um, I'm pretty sure, but there's also like there's a orchestra and there's also tech theater. So I don't really know much about that, but I hear there are a lot of good things from there too.
Okay, so do you have any tips to choose which electives that fit for us, like each person?
So in 6th grade, you can take a like kind of an intro course to like debate or an intro course to art. And if you're interested in any of those, you can always take the intro course. And if you don't like it, then in 7th and 8th grade, you can always just choose something else.
All right, thank you for your tips. Now, Serena, do you have any tips on clubs or sports?
Yeah, so for sports, okay, so there are 4 seasons for sports. I think there's fall, early winter, late winter, and spring. So they're different. Only two sports are available for each season, one for each, for one for boys and one for girls. I think all the sports are basketball, baseball, lacrosse, softball, flag football, soccer, swimming, track and field, and I think there are some other ones. So I only did basketball in 6th grade. So there are 3 mandatory practices per week. So definitely don't miss tryouts if you want to participate in sports, because they're not gonna make any exceptions if you don't participate in tryouts. So for basketball, there were about 10 games for us. And we played against 7 different private schools, which was fun. And you really get to meet a lot of new people in sports. So that was really cool.
Okay, thank you about that. And do you know, for each sport, like I heard that you did basketball, how much time per week do you need to spend for that?
There are 3 mandatory practices. I believe they are 1 hour long. They're not really gonna allow you to just skip practice for like whatever reasons. So if you're gonna miss practice, just email the head coach ahead of time and then they'll probably make an exception. But if you miss too many practices like that, they're probably gonna kick you off the team.
Okay, so a final question about sports, since I know many of us love sports. What do you learn from the sports that you do at Harker?
So there are teams based on your level. So if you're kind of new to the sport, then you're probably going to be put in the intramural team, which is basically they teach you how to like play the sport. Some sports have it. I know basketball has it. I think soccer has it, but I'm not sure about other sports. If you're pretty skilled at it, then they'll probably put you in like junior varsity A or like varsity B or A. So it kind of depends on your level.
All right, thank you. Next, let's move on to Aiden, who would like to talk to us about some clubs.
So for clubs, it's like I said before, don't choose too many because it might mess with your time schedule. I believe this fits for everything, not just clubs, also but sports electives too. Choose wisely because otherwise they might, otherwise you're gonna be stuck with something that you might not want to do for about like a year or half a year, and that might not really be good. Clubs are also a great way of making friends. So if you think you also want more friends, you might want to like join some clubs and see like who there is. You might meet people you've never met, and that's how I met my friends actually. So yeah.
Okay, do you know like which club is the most popular?
Not really. When you sign up for clubs, they have like before COVID, they had like tables for each club, and I guess you could just look at whatever table has the most people lining up for it, and that's probably be the most popular one.
I feel like the most popular would probably be the math club, but I think that's only for sixth graders. There's also the pixel art club. There's like a lot of people, so if you want to go, you probably want to sign up earlier because oftentimes you get cut because you signed up late. So
Okay, all right. And for Aiden, which club are you in? Or are you in any clubs?
Like right now,
Yeah, right now.
currently I'm not in any clubs because I'm focusing on homework right now. But
Okay.
in the past, I've been in a lot of clubs. Like there's like a drone flying one, and there was like a Dungeons and Dragons one. There's a lot of fun ones.
Okay, thank you, Aiden. And Serena, which clubs do you choose?
I did math club. I tried some JCL, which is for Latin students, and I tried pixel art.
All right, thank you. And let's move on to my favorite topic, and I'm sure many of your guys' favorite topics, the fun in middle school. So I'm sure that each panelist has a lot to say about this. Let's start with this time, Alex.
Yeah, so in middle school, there are a lot of fun events that you can go to. So first of all, there are like the yearly trips. So every year in around fall, the students, like everybody will go on a 1 week trip to somewhere. Like it depends on the grade. And you get to live there with your friends and room with your friends too. So it's just a really great time. I had a lot of fun all 3 years. Um, I guess there's also student events that are also fun. Like the student council will organize a lot of these events, and they will include like there's kind of like parties or like socials, and then there's yeah, it's just a great time to hang out with all of your friends and meet new people as well.
Okay, thank you. Ellie, do you have any thoughts about the fun?
I think one of the best things that everyone's the most excited for is probably lunch. I haven't gone to the middle school to eat the lunch yet, but last year in 5th grade, I went to the middle school for a day, and during lunch, I was really surprised because there were so many food choices. There's like different cafes serving different foods like pasta, meat, desserts, and a lot more. So I highly recommend getting lunch at the middle school.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ellie. I have a question for you. What was your favorite lunch choice?
I liked the pasta there. It was really delicious.
Nice. Okay, so Serena, you could go.
Okay, I guess I could probably talk about electronics more than anything else. So there's this thing that you need to complete in the summer, especially if you're just coming to 6th grade, even though you have to complete it in 7th grade and 8th grade. It's basically like a course that you do to learn how to properly use and keep your device safe, mainly your laptop during the school day, and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. So for laptop, you have to keep it with you or put it in your locker or your bag during the day so it doesn't get stolen. I feel like a lot of people would want to know when you can play games on your computer or when you can use your phone. So you can play games on your computer after 5 in the library and after 4 in the like just in the I forgot what it's called, like the MPR or something. The amphitheater, yeah. You can play games after 4 in the amphitheater. You can use your phone, I think you can use your phone after school, so that's good. Yeah. Also, just don't play games during the school day, because then if your teacher catches you, then you have to go to I don't remember what it's called, but it's like a lesser form of detention, I think.
Okay, and for the phone stuff, are you allowed to bring your phone for like a mile run to see how many steps you completed?
No, you have to leave your phone in your locker or your bag. You're not allowed to have your phone out during the school day.
Okay, all right. And another question is, are you allowed to bring like Apple Watches or like iPads or like
I don't believe you can bring iPads. I think smartwatches are okay as long as you can't play games or like chat or call people with them. So I guess Apple Watches are allowed if you don't call or chat, because they mainly just don't want you to chat with your watch if that can do so, because that's probably going to make you not focus on class.
okay, all right. For the if since you use like computers and if since you use like computers a lot in middle school for like lending and stuff like that, if it breaks, where do you go?
There's this tech help desk where you can borrow a computer. You basically borrow the computer and then you return it at the end of the day when you're done. If it's like a minor bug or something, you can probably go there and they'll try to fix your bug. If they can't fix it, then they probably give you a loan. Just remember to return the loan, because it's not fun when you get stuck with the school computer.
Okay, next, Aiden, do you have any thoughts?
So adding on to the lunch part, yes, there's a lot of food. There's also a lot of people though. I believe the L1 is when like sixth grade and seventh grade. No, lunch 1 is when like eighth graders get lunch, and lunch 2 is when sixth grade and seventh graders get lunch, I think, or is it the other way around? And there's a lot of people going to the lunch lines. There's actually 2 lunch lines. One's like a smaller bistro, the other one's the main line. Usually the main line has a lot of people, so if you want to get your food quickly, you should definitely get to the line quickly, because otherwise you're going to be stuck behind a lot of people. Don't run, because if they catch you running to the lunch line, which they think is dangerous, which probably is, because there's a lot of people that you can crash into, then they'll send you back to like where you started and have you walk. And also there's something called forgot what it's called, but it's where you and your advisory need to wash dishes or sort them for lunch. And if that happens, you get to cut the line and get your food first, because you need to stop eating quickly and deal with the dishes. Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, all right, thank you. I have a question for you. Do you have like, is there any desserts like ice cream or cookies every day, or do they only have like specific days?
They have desserts every day. They have ice cream every Friday. There's also signs that say 1 dessert per person. And if you take more than 1 and a teacher sees it, then they'll probably, tell you to put it back.
All right, and I heard that, do you need to like in the afternoon if you're hungry, do you get to like go to a snack bar? And if yes, do you need to pay for it?
Oh yeah, so snacks, there's a snack bar. The snacks cost like 75 cents each. There's a lot of different snacks. Some days they might have special ones, like ones such as, cup noodles or like ice cream sandwiches. And snack, if you're just like just go to school normally and then when school ends you leave, I don't think you should really get a snack, because you can get that at home. if you maybe like didn't really eat a good breakfast because you woke up late and had to rush to school, they have muffins at the snack bar during break, and you could buy one of those, which is always good. Or if you're staying in the campus late till 5 o'clock and just working on homework, then you could go buy the snacks from the snack bar if you get hungry. I believe the snack bar closes at like 4 o'clock though, so you have to buy it and then save it because you can't really go there at 5 anymore if you get hungry.
All right, thank you. And I have a question to all of you panelists. Could someone talk about the science fair and another person talk about any coding competitions?
Personally, not sure there is a science fair. If so, I have no idea that it exists because in 6th grade, I don't think we had a science fair. Coding competition, there's the Harker Programming Invitational. That's all that I really know about it because I didn't really go to the Harker Programming Invitational.
Okay, well,
Um,
Ellie, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. So I went to the Harker Programming Invitational, which is hosted by the Harker Programming League, and I enjoyed it, but it was also really hard. So overall, it was a great experience for us to learn and do better next time.
Okay, and as in the chat, Charlie said that a person asked if there's a coding club at middle school. So is there?
I don't know if there's a coding club. There's a computer science class that you can like sign up for. I think there's also one mandatory one in 6th grade, and there's a mandatory one in 8th grade, I think. I'm not sure though. But if you want to do coding, you could always sign up for the computer science club. Not club, elective, sorry.
Okay, like is the computer science and is a computer science club not like is a computer science class the same thing as the coding class?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Okay, yeah. Is the computer science class the same as the coding club? Like no, the class, coding class.
Well, I wouldn't exactly say it's exactly about coding. There is coding involved, but there's also other stuff where you learn about like, electronics and like tons of other stuff. And like the design thinking process. So basically there's more things than just coding, but there's definitely coding involved if you want.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
So there is coding in the computer science elective, although it's not based off of coding, there is coding involved. If you want to, I don't know, if you like really want to do coding, you could join, but there's also other things that's not just coding, I guess. That's basically.
Thank you. Thank you, Aiden. And I guess that could be the end of our panel discussion. And now we could move on to the third phrase, which is the learning coding in next camp. I hope that everyone enjoys the topics that we discussed today. And if you have any other questions, we could talk about them in the Q&A session. So I could start first for the 2 questions. The first one, what do you enjoy most next camp? Well, my favorite part of next camp is probably the competitions and the competitions they have. Like I think when I first started coding, I learned logo, and there was a logo art project, and I won 3rd place. So I got candy, which I loved, and I also got coloring pencils, which I still use in art class today. And there was also another team code, I think in December or something like that, the team code. And that was also really fun because I got to work with other people, though they're not like in my class. It was very fun to cooperate with others And yeah, I also liked like in class the breakout room since we got to discuss our algorithm, our logic, data type, data structure, and that's basically it. So I could give it to Ellie to talk about her moment.
Okay, thank you, Zoe. I think my favorite part of working in X Camp was working together in study groups with my friends to solve coding problems. We have fun and we discuss our ideas on what kind of algorithm or data structure to use. And in the end, we can come up with a code that's simple yet solves the problem. And also, the teachers in X Camp are really great. They keep everyone engaged and they keep the class super fun. And sometimes we'll have speedy questions, which are quick coding problems that we try to solve and code as fast as possible. One piece of advice that I would want to share is don't be afraid to ask for help. Everyone in the class is really willing to help. Sometimes students will ask in Discord on help on their code. Yeah, so.
Thank you, Ellie, and Alex, if you have anything to say.
The thing I enjoyed most in X Camp was actually meeting a lot of new people. I made a lot of friends while at X Camp, so that was really nice. One piece of advice that I would share would be to get help if you are even confused with just a little bit about something. So like if you're just a teensy bit unsure about any concept, then immediately ask for help because that's gonna snowball into something that's like a really big problem and you're gonna struggle a lot.
Okay, thank you. And Serena, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the part that I most enjoyed was that the classes are always really interactive and fun. We always had like a lot of speeding questions, which created like a fun kind of competition between the students. And it also helped us see like others' code and see how we can improve our own code. The teachers are also really cool and they also help us a lot. They give us lots of interactive lessons and it's really fun.
And thank you. Last but not least, Aiden, do you want to share your experience?
Well, for X Camp, I think one thing I enjoy would probably be the just coding in general because it's very fun. Also, I very much enjoy the snacks. The teacher would always bring snacks, which you would earn if you. I think the first three people who complete the speedy problems would get them. Occasionally, the teachers would bring something really good like mochi or like mini ice cream cones, which would always motivate people to do well while doing the speedy problems.
Okay, thank you, Aiden. And now let's move on to the second question. What is one advice you'd like to share? I'll start first again. One advice I would like to share is that if you're stuck in the middle of a problem, don't just give up. You could try three methods. First you could try to debug it on a piece of paper, and try to write down your algorithm, draw the model of the question. And if that doesn't work, you could try to write comments in your code to make everything like logical and straightforward. And if that still doesn't work, you could ask a TA, but if the TA doesn't even know, you could try to leave that question alone for now and then work on a different question so you don't waste extra time. Alex, do you want to share now?
Well, one advice, I kind of said it already, but it's just to get help when you need it. That's probably the most important thing. If you're struggling a little bit, then you're gonna start to struggle more. So you can get help from teachers or TAs at X Camp. So I would recommend that.
All right, thank you. Now, Ellie, do you want to share your advice?
Yeah, my advice would be to not get too worked up about a problem. I think if you've been working on a problem for a while, you should probably move on to another one and come back to it, and you'll probably get better.
All right, and now, Aiden, you can share yours.
For me, my advice would just be, well, for one, the X Camp does give a lot of homework. Usually they give like 5 problems or more. Occasionally they might give less. I think one piece of advice would be to balance the homework from X Camp out for your other homework and, activities. Because X Camp homework does take a lot of time, unless it's like the occasional where they don't give a lot.
Okay, and Aiden, for one question, do you know like the average amount of time you put for coding every single week?
Well, it depends on the amount of homework and problems. But I'd say usually I don't really have time to do right now, like during COVID, I don't really have enough time to do it during the week. So usually most of my weekends I would spend doing coding, most if not all the time, other than like my other classes. I'd just be focusing on coding during weekends. So definitely a few hours.
Okay, thank you so much, Aiden. And now we can finally move on to the Q&A session. So if anyone wants to, before that, we could, Charlie could talk about the XCAM summer classes.
Yes, thanks. Thank you all for your sharing. Here, just a quick introduction on the Python class XCamp provided during summer. So we have summer camp. The classes will have 2 levels. One is the CS 100 Python. It's for the inter level without any experience student can learn this kind of visualization course. The second one is Python introduction with data structure and algorithm, CS 101 Python. This is a kind of you have more than half a year coding experience. So we'll teach Python very quickly and get some data structure and algorithm. We have a summer camp. It's a 2-week. It's in late June to early July. Also, second one is in early August. In addition, we have weekend classes. It's a week. So it's the same for these 2 classes. Mostly we can provide a lecture, also group study too, as some of you have mentioned. Yeah, thank you. If any of you are interested, you can scan the code later or to register. Yeah, thank you. Turn back to Zoe, the QA session.
Okay, thank you so much, Charlie. And now if you have any questions, you could raise your virtual hand and we will call on you. But first I could answer, like the panelists could answer some questions from the chat. So the first one is, okay, so the first one we already answered. It was the coding club and it was no coding club, but there's a computer science class. And the second one is Harker is very competitive. How do you feel about the peer pressure? And does anyone want to answer them?
Yeah, I can answer that. At Harker, yeah, it is very competitive. It's just the environment is very, it can get stressful at times, but I feel like one way to minimize that would be actually your friend groups, because those are the people that you talk to most, and those are the people that are going to give you the most pressure if you're around the wrong people. So if somebody's constantly comparing their grades to yours and making you feel bad about that, or just making you feel like you're not enough or what you're doing is not enough, then that's probably not someone you want to be around. So yeah, that's one way to get around that.
And how do you like deal with those bullies who continuously add peer pressure on you?
Personally, I just try not to talk with them as much. When they try to talk to me about something, I just try to end the conversation as fast as possible. I just say like, okay, or like, yeah, and then just kind of maybe walk away or something. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the second question I see Charlie already answered. The second question was, will the summer camp be online or in person? Actually, can they have an online version? And Charlie answered, the current plan is online version for June summer camp. So thank you. And if anyone has any further questions, you could raise your hand to ask. And actually, I have a question, which is, how do you balance your life with like middle school work and outside extracurriculars? Ellie, do you want to answer it?
Yeah. So as I said before, you should probably time manage your time. Don't try to spend too much time on homework. If you're not done by really late at night, you should go to sleep and get back to it in the morning because you'll probably think better in the morning. Yeah.
Okay, and if you have extra questions, try to raise your hand. If you aren't comfortable with us knowing who's asking it, you could send it privately in the chat.
Oh, also, I have some stuff to say about this too. For the peer pressure one, if you feel like other people are doing better than you, just calm down. It's like, if you're like really competitive, then like, sure, but like if you're not really competitive and just like, wanna, fit in, you don't need to be very competitive. You can just, do your best, and that's what matters most. As for balancing middle school with the other stuff, I believe you just do what you can, because if you pile and know your limits, because if you pile on too many things, it could be very bad.
Okay, thank you. And Alex, I have a final question for you. And after getting bullied because of peer pressure, how do you like relax, like calm down after that?
I would say like usually after they kind of go away, it just gets a little better. And if you just hang around people that are more supportive, then and maybe talk to them and maybe like rant about how annoyed you are or something, that will make you feel a lot better. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I see another question popped up in the chat. Is it difficult for you to pass the Sako? Any tips? Thanks. From Sonia. And does anyone want to answer that one?
I can.
Okay. Wait, Serena, do you want to go first?
Sure. So Usako is not easy, but if you practice a lot and you do the X Camp homework, then I think you'll be fine. If you get like really stuck on one problem, don't spend all your time trying to debug it, because you can use that time to do other problems even if you don't finish Sako. So don't waste all your time trying to debug a code, because it's not an effective use of time. Also, do the XCamp homework, and before you Sako, they usually have a lot of practice from previous ones, and if you don't understand, then you can always go to office hours.
Okay, now Ellen, you can share your thoughts.
Yeah, I have the same thoughts pretty much, but I think Usako is pretty hard. I would say the same thing. So don't get too worked up about a problem. I think you should move on if you still haven't passed a problem within maybe half the time. Because in the Usako that I passed, I spent almost half of the 4 hours working on the first problem, so I just decided to move on and come back to the problem. And also, if you don't pass it, it's okay, because you can always try better next time. There's multiple competitions each year.
Okay, and I have my own personal thoughts.
要什么？真的啊？
Okay, I also have my own personal thoughts about this, about Usako. So Usako, when you think of it, don't get so carried away, oh my gosh, 6th graders pass Usako, 7th graders pass Usako. Well, it doesn't really matter on the age. It matters more on your knowledge for coding. So even if you're so young, you could pass Usako easily. Not easily, but if you work hard, you'll pass it. And during the test, I recommend have a quiet room, and you have a bottle of water next to you. And since it's 4-hour long test, if your eyes start hurting or if you really can't focus anymore, you could take a 5-minute break to stay more focused and keep your mind fresh. I also recommend if you have to go to the bathroom, do it before, because the 4 hours very limited to do such hard questions. And that's my thoughts. Okay, And we have another question, which is, what if a class isn't interesting? Because for those classes, I get extremely distracted. So who wants to answer that?
I guess I can answer that. So I have
I think Serena's internet dropped out. So anyone else wants to answer it?
Well, I feel like if a class isn't particularly interesting, then you have to try to find your own way to make that class interesting. So for example, if your teacher's just, let's just say, lecturing on and on and on, and you just don't want to listen to them and you're just very bored, then I guess you could make like a game with yourself about maybe something with taking notes. Um, but just make sure that I guess you try not to get distracted and still try to pay attention to the class, even if it's not your full attention. Um, it's still very important that you at least try to listen to the class.
Okay, and Serena's back, so she could share her thoughts about this question.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my computer died. Okay, so I find some classes kind of boring, but I find it useful if you just try to take notes as fast as you can because it's fun and it can help you concentrate a bit more on the class and not get distracted. Also, you can, if you finish note taking early, then you can always do something else, even though I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay, and I also have my own thought. If you find the class really boring, it's probably either the teacher's fault or in your opinion, you just don't like the class. And in that case, I recommend you try to ask more questions to get engaged in the class. And you should change, and this will help you change your mindset from, oh, this is so boring to, oh, I actually think it's fine. Because if you ask questions and make sure everything's clear, then you probably are good to go. And the next question is, what is the typical learning path before Lusako? Did you all start with the Python course? And I have my own thoughts about this, but anyone else could go before me if you'd like.
I could share. So basically, I started an X Camp last summer, and we started with the logo course, which is like a visual kind of programming place. But they changed it to a Python course this year. So, and then afterwards, we started doing C++. Yeah, and we just kept on doing that up until now. And I think this year we started prepping for USACO, doing maybe about 7 weeks of like USACO training. And during like winter, we all decided to try the contest, and some of us passed, and yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ellie. And if I also have my own thoughts about this, which is no, not everyone starts with Python. We could start with any different coding language, and that doesn't really matter because in USACO, I think, well, I'm not pretty sure, but I think that USACO provides every single language available. So you could do the test in Java or Python or C++ or any coding language if I'm aware of, that I'm aware of. Also, the learning path is technically you start by some basic questions. You start basic questions like, well, I started with really simple questions like, can you print hello or stuff like that. But if you're preparing for Lusako, you should probably get a couple of data structures and algorithm skills already. And after that, after you did already the teacher questions, that you could start practicing with Lusako past questions. And in Lusako, it's usually the first question is easiest, then the second question is harder, then the third one is hardest, I think, but that's for bronze. I think for silver and gold and platinum, there are 4 questions, I think. And Yeah, and the next question, oh, Charlie, you have anything to say?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Zoe. Here we have several USACO related questions. So I just want to have a quick answer for most of them. So for the USACO class, the language does not matter. So you can take with Python, C++, and Java, especially for the early bronze and zero level. Most time when you go to the good level, C++ is has some advantages. The second question is, how long did you pass the USACO level? I think some of them, most of them take less 1 year here, but generally the class, it takes students 2 years from no coding experience to the USACO bronze level. Here we take generally like the other levels like silver and the gold, maybe another extra 1 or 2 years. So for the class in XCamp, if you want to pass USACO levels, we have mostly prepared the content, the algorithm, data structure needed. We might have some practices for the USACO problems in the past. So I think that's all related. Yeah, thank you. Go back to you, Zoe.
Okay, thank you. And does anyone have any other questions about not only USACO, but like middle school or XCamp?
Here's another question from the forum. So besides like the coding, do you guys have any other tutoring classes outside school?
What do you exactly mean by like tutoring?
Most likely for the kind of a subject. So you may have like sports club outside, but like the other tutoring like the math or science related, yeah.
I have a math class that's targeting AMC 8, and I don't know if piano would count, but I also do piano.
I also have other classes outside of school, but since I'm in elementary school, I think that I have a bit more time because in elementary school, my homework is for school is a bit less. And if you follow like the tips that we gave today, I'm sure that everyone could have more extracurricular classes outside of school.
Okay, good. So yeah, it's kind of a weird random time. So do you want to wait, maybe see other live questions, or you want ending here?
We could see live questions. Unless, does anyone have any live questions?
Seems not. Okay, I think that's a very good session. We may ending here.
Okay, then we could end it here and see you next time. Bye. And for
Thank
the
you.
panelists, could you stay for a couple more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thanks for
Bye.
coming.
Thanks for all of you.
Thanks for coming.
Hello, everyone.